My name is Ted Lucio, and I am a professional boxing and mixed martial artist striking coach. I've been doing it since 1993, but I was originally based out of California, San Jose, and my primary employer is American Kickboxing Academy. So for those that know mixed martial arts, home of a lot of the big names in the UFC and as well as Strikeforce. When I first originally started going to American Kickboxing Academy, I went as a boxing kickboxing coach, and at that time, Muay Thai was just starting to develop. Everybody was wanting to get, go from full contact, which is kicking above the waist, and now they're going into Muay Thai, which is leg kicking, and then eventually, they would strike with elbows and so forth. I was working in that aspect, and then one of the main instructors for grappling there at that time was Frank Shamrock. And at that time, he was going on, being the first middleweight champion as well as the first 5-time middleweight champion. And I don't know why you call it 5-time. He defended the belt 4 times, But he was one of the big guys that we had there. And from there, it pretty much started steamrolling. We had BJ Penn. BJ Penn was actually in our school before he went back to Hawaii. His first 3-4 fights in the UFC were under AKA banner until he lost to Jens Pulver, and then from there on he went back to back to Hawaii. So it's all started there. One of the guys that's responsible was Bob Cook, and who everybody knows as Crazy Bob. He being a UFC veteran himself, started getting guys fights, which is, like you said, pretty much the underground casinos, Indian casinos, would have fights not sanctioned by the athletic commissions, and a lot of things transpired from there. And Bob would take me along because not only am I a striking coach, I'm a professional hand wrapper and a cut man, and I actually work for Strikeforce and have been employed a couple times for the UFC whenever their main 4 is not there. So I would go for the safety of our fighters, try and keep them in the fight, try and protect their hands, because unlike boxing, the smaller gloves don't give a lot of protection when these guys are hitting towards the head and so forth. So that's how I pretty much got involved with it right from that point. And then I still worked the boxing aspect with professional boxers, but then as mixed martial arts started to grow, more and more of the MMA fighters, which were NHB fighters, if you remember, now started asking me for more help and more help and more help. So my basic role was to teach them the basic boxing stances, the basic boxing strikes, lateral movement, side-to-side movement, turn boxers out of these wrestlers and these, pretty much tough guys back then. Now you see what comes out of the pool of fighters are wrestlers. We got guys that practice Jiu-Jitsu, and even stand-up guys that all we're trying to do is, as American Kickboxing, is we're trying to give them every aspect of the game. Dave Camarillo, he's our Jiu-Jitsu black belt. We have Daniel Cormier, who's a 2-time Olympian. He's one of the wrestling coaches. Josh Koscheck, he was NCAA champion, in wrestling. And then John Fitch, who was a captain at Purdue University, wrestling background. And then we have the strike-up, Javier Mendez, who's a kickboxing world champion. He's there. Myself, working in that same pool and so forth. So, we have a good mixture of things and so forth. So that's where it all came from. How do I see how MMA has pretty much now gone into mainstream? I think it's great. It's given a lot of guys opportunities to get into a sport that they love, that they work really hard at in the beginning. A lot of MMA fighters were put down because they didn't have the abilities that boxers have. You can see the difference in the striking game in comparison to the guys that were pretty much tough guys. But now these guys are well-rounded, and when you work with them on a day in, day out basis, you're watching them go from one from wrestling to grappling to striking to kickboxing, all in one session. They're all rounded, and that's what they need to be. They need to be mixed martial artists. They can't just be good at one specific art. Did I see myself getting involved with this? I would have to say I happened to be at the right place at the right time. Like I said, I boxed when I was an amateur, when I was young. I got out of the sport as I grew older. I got back into the boxing, amateur boxing, when I met my ex-wife. Her father and her brother were amateur boxing coaches, and I worked from there and there. And then, I had to build my respect with the fighters that, in the boxing world. And I've been fortunate enough to work with some really, really good boxers in the process. And then, like I said, just to be at the right place at the right time, at the right school, and to earn my respect with those guys, and to show them what I had to offer. My perfect example is Josh Koscheck. A guy, if you watch The Ultimate Fighter 1 season, he was a pure wrestler. His second fight with Diego Sanchez, Diego said that he was going to do nothing but lay and pray. And if you all remember that fight, it was a masterful piece of stand-up work, from striking to kicking. There was only one takedown in that fight, the end of the first round. And after Diego turned that scramble to get on Josh's back, we stayed with the fight, with the striking. And he took him apart. So you can see what transpired that whole time, from Ultimate Fighter 1 to April of 2007, what we had to do to make Josh into a striking fighter. And you can see it as his career has progressed.